Hello and welcome back to another episode of Live here on Keystroke Medium. I am Josh Hayes here with the one and only Lauren Moore from The Writer's Journey. Yes.
Classing the joint up.
We gave Scott a vacation day because of all the work he does. And then Chuck Manley down here, and then the one and only Toni Weisskopf joins
Balancing out the classiness of Lauren.
That's right. Welcome, Toni. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Glad to talk to you guys.
I'm pretty sure I just spit all over the screen.
Well, it happens. I mean, if I don't spit coffee or somebody else doesn't have problems during the show, then we're not doing the show right.
Oh, and Toni, save your jokes until right about the moment you see Josh about to take a drink. It's like a game we played, trying to get him to choke. Right. If you got a one-liner, try to time it just right.
Yeah. Gotcha. Good to know the rules. Thank you.
That's right. This is how we. If somebody mentions Sanderson, we take a shot, and then if I'm drinking coffee, somebody tells a joke, and then I try to spit coffee.
We used to do the show at night, and we weren't drinking coffee when we were taking those shots.
Oh.
And the show crashed. Just
bad.
Went downhill.
Bad.
But it was fun.
It was fun.
All the way down.
The first time Josh had me on before I joined the team, by the time we were done, he was slurring. It was awesome.
In a bad way.
It was awesome.
That's for sure.
So my goal is to get you guys jittery as all get out. Is that
yes, that's right.
Yes.
All right.
That's right. Welcome, everybody.
Sanderson. Yeah, Sanderson.
All right, here we go.
That's a ticket.
See, I had to quit keeping it on my desk.
Yeah,
I'm home way too much for that.
Steve Bowyer actually hooked me up with this brand. I had to check it out.
What is it? Let me see. Hold that up again.
It's
Don't
Texas straight bourbon.
That sounds super classy. Yes.
That's right. Welcome everybody in the live show. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us this morning. Let's see. Rick is the first comment of the day. Look, can we just make Rick our just designated first?
Designated.
He
golf
always
clap.
gets the golf clap of appreciation. Thank you, Rick. Good morning. Charlie Dunn's in California. Corey, hello. Welcome. Scott McGlasson is no longer lurking today. I love when Scott posts because he watches every episode, but he only posts every 8, and all the other times he just lurks around in the back, looking over somebody's shoulder trying to see what's going on. Who else is here? Let's see.
There's a new guy, Scoot Moon Rider. I don't know who that is.
Scoot Moonay is in the chat. Hello, Scoot Moonay. Welcome. Good morning. Speaking of drinking whiskey, if you have not checked out Keystroke Coffee, I created that just for Lauren to be right there. If you're looking for your writing fuel, keystroke.com/coffee, you can get your own bag of Writer's Block, which happens to be what I'm drinking, and it's also my favorite. There are 6 blends of Keystroke Coffee that you can pick up there on the website. It's fantastic for a moderate price. You will not be disappointed. So that's my spiel. That's the show. Hey, everybody, have a good Monday, and we'll talk to you later. Let's see.
Buy coffee. Bye.
Buy coffee. What have we been up to this week? Lauren, you're a special guest on the show, so you get to go first today.
I'm editing a post-apocalyptic manuscript. It's the 3rd book in a series. It's for Baen Books, and it's very gritty, literally gritty. There's sand and grit and dirt everywhere.
Nice.
They wrote it in the desert outside. Was that it?
Irradiated sand and grit. It's wonderful.
It's every time somebody mentions that, I always have flashbacks to Star Wars Attack of the Clones and the horrible acting of Hayden Christensen. He's I hate sand. It gets everywhere. I'm come on, get out of here.
It's a thing, though.
It is a thing.
It is a thing. That's why I don't like the beach.
Back in the day, you could always tell which editor it was by the amount of cat hair that came with the manuscript.
I love that.
Wow.
Back when you did everything non-digitally.
That's right.
Some of us are old enough to remember those days, Josh.
Come on now.
Yeah, whippersnapper.
I've always been interested. Do you ever lose pages when you're doing that kind of like you go through the manuscript and you lose like 5 pages and you send it back and the author's like, they just cut 5 pages of my manuscript they didn't like?
This is why pagination is important. So yeah, the answer is yes. Yes, you would. And pagination is important. Also, writing that your name and the title of the manuscript is important.
I got dinged for that once.
Yeah, I mean, when you're doing it electronically, you are less likely to fuck up. But even so, if the name of your file is novel final, and it's still going to be tricky. So
true.
Yeah, identifying markers are helpful. Tattoos, moles, something.
That's right. That's awesome.
Coffee stains consistently.
That's right.
Yeah.
You dip like a corner of your entire manuscript in coffee.
Yeah.
Lauren's like, no, don't do that.
I heard a story once, and I think it was somebody was it Tor or somebody? I don't know. I heard this editor speaking, and he said that a writer that submitted to them had that concern, so they did their manuscript on like purple paper, so that it wouldn't get mixed up with all the other.
Nice.
And this was like way back when. I'm like, I don't know. That probably wouldn't go over too well.
Well, again, it's one of these things where when printers came about and writers could experiment with fonts. This was bad. This was bad. This is why there are fonts specified in submission guidelines, where before you never had to do that.
No.
I told Richard
it was a typewriter. They all had
it.
pretty much the same font.
I told Richard.
Well, the IBM did not. But
well, that's true. That is true.
I told Richard I was going to submit my last Terra Nova book in Comic Sans, and he said absolutely not. He wouldn't read it at all.
I wouldn't either.
Facebook user says novel really, really final 2.
Come on, we've all done that.
It's true.
The real final one.
What about you, Chuck? What have you been up to this week, man?
Softball, and more softball. My daughter is playing softball. We have 6 games starting tonight this week, and 6 more next week, and then the playoff. And then the spring season starts, so I probably won't get a break. Now, on the writing front, and my son's car, he ran over something and warped one of his rims so that the tire will not hold air. So I'm having to get that. That's what I spent all morning trying to find the right rim to blah, blah, blah. The point is I have kids and they're killing me. Now, as far as my writer's life goes, I'm through the marshy middle of Jack Dark Book 2. I'm getting into the final, big culmination stuff. And I went a direction with it, and I was, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 words into it, and I realized that the tension had just sort of went flump. And, I went back and I read it and I realized he was just kind of walking through going, okay, let's do this. Okay, let's do that. And it was getting dull. And I mean, it's the culmination. It can't be dull. So I had to, basically, I just wiped out those couple of chapters or whatever it was. And I've gone back and changed that. So it's a step back, but it's going to be better in the end because now the tension is much higher, stakes are higher, and he's not exactly sure what he's going to do. So that's what you want. You want that tension. You want that question to carry the reader through the manuscript, all that stuff. And I recognized that I was missing that, so I had to go backtrack a little bit, make the corrections, and hopefully I'll have that one done in the next 3 to 4 weeks, depending on whether or not my kids kill me before then.
Nice. Tony, what about you? What have you been up to this last week?
Oh, not much. Just, taking it easy, playing with the dogs, basking in the sunshine, the usual publisher editor
rough
life.
life.
Right, I was going to say, that is rough.
No, I mean, what I do at Baen is I'm the publisher, I'm the editor-in-chief, and I'm the art director. So I get to wear a lot of different hats, which is good because the older I get, the shorter my attention span gets. And I was one of the original Sesame Street generation. We have attention spans of squirrels. We blame the TV.
Yep.
So I read manuscripts. I write up contracts. I talk with authors and artists. I do some proofreading. Looking over copy and meetings. We do meetings at Baen. We try to keep them to an absolute minimum. And people are amazed at how few meetings we actually get away with. But that's our style. Yep.
That actually makes a question occur to me. You and I have actually met, Toni. We met at a couple of years ago at Liberty Con. I did the morning walk with you guys. I'm sure you don't remember it, but we spoke for just a minute. But I'm wondering, do you miss the cons? Because I noticed at that con that you were pretty much swamped all the time. So do you miss that interaction at the cons?
Well, I mean, LibertyCon is special to me, right? It's my hometown convention. I've been going to conventions in Chattanooga since I was, I guess, in college. So call it 17, which is a long time now. So yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people at LibertyCon. I remember when for me, LibertyCon is the new convention in Chattanooga, right?
Right.
So
what, 26th or something? I don't remember.
I think they're working on 30 something now, but yeah. So it's that one is particularly busy for me, but yeah, I have been going to conventions. There have been small conventions going on, and I've been going to them. And quite enjoying that. But I am looking forward to the time when the laws and mandates are relaxed, and then we can get back to conventions as usual, and see what conventions are going to be out there. I just heard that Contraflow in New Orleans is planning on having their convention this year, so not going virtual. So that's one to look forward to. That's always a good one.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to make it to the ones that are local to me. Like I'm in Huntsville, Alabama, so LibertyCon is easy. It's just right up the road, and I've always wanted to go to the one in New Orleans, just because it's New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, it's not in the French Quarter. It's at a
It's
hotel
closer than I am.
It is, yeah. It's at a hotel that was friendly to fans and friendly to parties. So that's important. But yeah, I went to middle school and high school in Huntsville. So
did you? Cool.
Yeah. Yep. Proud graduate of Huntsville High. So
that's where my son's going.
Go
Fantastic.
Panthers! Yeah. Yeah, you will see that there is a brick with my name on it in the patio and the entryway there. Yes, absolutely.
I might have to look at that at his next performance.
Chuck, find it, take a picture. I want to see too.
I want to find it. I will. Yes. I will.
Man, it's a small world, isn't it?
He's got a play coming up in like 2 weeks, so I'll be there for that. So I'm going to walk the courtyard and see if I can find that.
Oh, that's fantastic! Yeah, I did theater all 4 years in Huntsville, and
yeah, he loves it. He loves it.
Yep.
Are y'all getting bored listening to me talk about my kids?
Not at all. Not at all.
This is totally why you had me on here. I'm sure.
That's exactly 100%. So we could find our common ground. So I got another question. Toni, what the hell happened?
Well, I know how I'm perceiving it. You tell me, who's the youngest person here?
I think Lauren.
All right, Lauren, you tell me what does it look like happened?
Oh, it looks like someone with a blog. With blogs, you always want to help your readers and find something interesting, something that people want to read about. And someone with a blog found a topic that they were passionate about, and that was that there were vile people on Baen Books forum saying vile, violent things. And there, we've had a rough year in politics and out on the streets, like in the news, things actually happening that people are getting upset about. It split families, it split friends, and he found a topic that related that people are, excited about. Probably got him a lot of great traffic to his blog. And it also put a lot of attention onto Baen Books. To me, it was also kind of a cultural battle between the old internet with the forums that we had in the past, where people were anonymous and were, kind of felt free to say whatever they want. And this new internet with Twitter and Facebook, where people are held accountable to what they say and to their beliefs by strangers on the internet who might take offense to what you say, and where you have to be more careful, I think, about what you say. And Baen's Books got caught up in the middle of it. That was my take, for what it's worth. I could be wrong.
No. That's a really interesting view. Because I'm old, and I remember when Baen's Bar started, right? And I remember the beginning of the internet. All right, not DARPANET. I'm not that old, but right. But I remember people.
You had the AOL thing with the
yeah. I used to get the discs in the mail. I'm sure Toni did too.
Absolutely, and I, the only thing I ever used AOL for was when we were doing research for Greasy Grimy Gopher Guts. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but this is one of my few writing credits. Is a book of investigative anthropology, cultural anthropology, called Greasy Grimy Gopher Guts. I did this.
Love that title.
Well, it was. That's what it's about. It's about subversive children's rhymes, and the way that we gathered. It absolutely is. It is the definitive book on this, and someday when in my copious spare time, I'll make sure that it gets an ebook. But yes, exactly. Yeah. Peter has it right. Yes.
Wow. I think that might be the best quote we've had on the show so far.
So we did research. We talked to our kids, and we talked to our friends' kids, and we went into classrooms, and we got contemporary subversive children's rhymes. But we also went on AOL and SFFnet and
Right,
other places.
I remember that one.
Genie was big. We were big on Genie. We had a whole topic on Genie, and so we would get people's memories of their subversive rhymes. So we got a whole, not just the modern cohort, but people going back 50 years, remembering the things that they had learned at Girl Scout camp and so on. So we put this together. The ones bashing on Barney were my favorites, because really, Barney, how creepy!
Really, I kept waiting for him to resort to his true dinosaur nature and just start eating those kids.
Oh.
Let me tell you about the 2-year-old birthday party that we had one year. So,
Oh no.
yeah. So at any rate, I remember how the internet used to be, and I know, and I was never terribly active on the bar. That was Jim Baen's deal, but we've kept it going, and we have kept it going for a long time. So to me, the things that the person who wrote the blog were getting excited about, and I still haven't quite finished investigating, because there were a lot of accusations being thrown out. There were a few specific things that were called out, and I've looked at the few specific things that were called out, and a lot of them were just blatantly misinterpreted. Well, one of them in particular, there was an accusation of racism. There was a racist nickname given to a guy who's East Indian, and he wants me to sue the blogger. He's that pissed off.
Wow.
Because he chose that nickname. He's proud of that nickname. He has the email backups and the screenshots of him. And this goes back over a decade, by the way. Where
Sounds like a libel case to me.
Yeah, where he was very proud of this nickname that he helped choose and has used continually for a decade. Okay, so
I'm sorry. The East Indian guy chose his own nickname.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's
No.
different.
He's absolutely pissed that this blogger is
That
coming
this
to
guy-
his defense,
when he
saying that
doesn't need it.
no,
Okay.
not at
And
all.
how many times have we seen that happen where somebody gets
Right.
enraged or upset over
About
some
something
perceived social justice
That
deal?
the
and
people
it's,
involved don't give a
they
damn
don't-
about.
what I find interesting about the article is that it's titled Baen Books Forum Being Used to Advocate for Political Violence, which in and of itself is the most clickbaity title you could have. But then in the opening paragraph, it says it's being used to advocate for extremist political violence. Evidence will be presented, comments by a number. So he comes off, and we had Eric Flynn on the show last week talking about it, and he said, it's obviously hit piece coming off as investigative journalism.
Right.
But instead of saying there are users in Baen's bar who are advocating for violence, they attribute everything to the forum.
Right.
And
the
that
whole.
it's even even the quotes that are like Tony said, taken out of context or just small snippets of a whole post. You don't just go and say the platform is responsible for these few people making these comments. It's ridiculous to me.
But I don't think it's ridiculous to Lauren.
Yeah, that's
Ooh.
part of the whole conflict is what's the purpose of a platform? What's the responsibility of the platform? Are they liable for what their users say? We kind of face that with Keystroke too. When we have a guest on, part of the thinking is, are they speaking for Keystroke when they say their opinions? Or hey, is Lauren Moore speaking for Keystroke when Lauren Moore says her opinions? Or is this just a space where we talk? So that's part of the discussion. That's part of where people are coming from. The guy who wrote the blog post, he thinks, yes, the platforms are responsible for what's being said. But others would cite, like the telephone example, is a telephone company responsible for what people pick up their telephone and say? And, 30 years ago, of course not. That would be a ridiculous question to ask. But today, this is part of the discussion.
Yeah, but I don't know that the telephone analogy really works because that's not something the whole world has access to. Like if I call you, that conversation is pretty much between me and you, unless the NSA is listening or something. But
Well, I mean, the argument is that Baen's Bar or your Facebook page, unless you choose to make it public, isn't public. It's something that you opt into, and it's a conversation that you walk up to and join.
Well, that's also very valid. Yeah, because you do have to sign in and all that. I mean, couldn't all of this just be like I remember? I don't know if they still do it, but on the old talk shows and stuff back in the day, the views of this guest are not necessarily the views of whoever. I mean, just put that disclaimer on everything and, tell the vloggers who are trying to make a name for themselves to shut the fuck up and go home.
Well, it's like, to Tony's point, you have to opt into the deal. It's kind of like I think of HBO and Stars, where you have to get your subscription. So you're not going to subscribe to HBO and then complain that there's nudity or
right. No, absolutely. I mean, if there's a wall between the public and the place where this content is, and you have to agree to pass by that wall to get to the content, you lose all rights to complain, in my opinion.
I'm curious, Tony, on Sanford's side, has he? I know he did. I don't think he reached out to you before he published the article. Have you had any contact with him? Have you spoken with him about this? Has there been any kind of forward progress? I know you shut down the forum, which I thought was perfectly reasonable to do, to kind of look into the thing. But I think it was kind of unreasonable that WorldCon disinvited you after 4 days without even giving you time to look into.
Wait, what? I didn't know about this part.
Yeah.
They disinvited you from a con because of this asshole's thing?
Yes.
And I have actually come to the conclusion he is an asshole.
So to answer Josh's question, no, there was no contact between the blogger and Baen of any sort that I can see. I maintain a Facebook page. My email is the very complicated Toni@Baen.com, very hard to get to. We have an 800 number for the office. The address of Baen is literally printed in millions and millions and millions of books on the copyright page. We are not, unlike, say if you're trying to appeal something from Facebook or Twitter to find out why you've been banned.
Right.
We are actually very easy to contact.
And he didn't contact you before publishing his post?
Nope.
Because I think that's what professional journalists are supposed to do.
I believe that is the standard, but I never took journalism class, so I can't say. So no, I haven't.
For a while, she told me stuff.
Oh, there. you get the insider's view on that. Yeah. So no, there hasn't been any contact with him. I do take accusations of racism and fomentation of incipient violence seriously. I believe that there are something like close again to 1 million posts at Baen.com over the years.
Wow.
I am not looking at everyone, but I have investigated and am still investigating the specific claims that were brought out in the blog. So. Did I need to shut the blog down to investigate it? Yes, I do. Do I need to bring it back because the people who use Baen's Bar need it and do not have another place that they can go to do what it is that they do? Yes, I do. I do need to bring it back. Well,
without going into specifics or naming names or anything like that, did you find any validity to what the man was saying?
The fomentations of violence. I did the only standard that I can see that is a reasonable one is the language legal or illegal. Otherwise, what I'm being asked to do is impose my standards on everyone else. Now, I find it gratifying that people think that my standards are high ones and are good ones, and that they want me to do this, and I appreciate their faith in me. But I have a deep reluctance to do that, partly because it would be so easy, and you can say this and you can't say that, and this I don't like the way you say this, so I'm going to say that you can't say that. That'd be awesome.
That's kind of what's being done to you, though, right? That's essentially what this guy's doing.
I saw a quote on a response to an article, and I can't remember what the article was, but this quote basically said, the First Amendment guarantees free speech. Yeah, speech is allowed, but violence is not. So if we can make your speech violence, we can make your speech not allowed. And that's what I think a lot of people are doing.
That's a rationale, yeah.
Not only in this forum, but across the country as we see today. If they can make your speech violent, then obviously that shouldn't be allowed. So your speech by proxy should not be allowed at all. It's kind of a crazy thing where we're now attributing all kinds of speech that people don't like as violent. I mean, even in this report, there's a warning in the first paragraph that says this report includes discussions of possible political violence, along with quoted comments containing racism, white supremacy, and more. And it's when I was a kid, sticks and stones, right? And
right.
But now words are the worst thing you can do.
Right.
So there was a question in the live chat. I'm interested in your response too. Is like you started investigating it, you took it seriously, the allegation, and the article, and you looked into it. But then, because of saving face and wanting to appease basically what amounted to a hit piece and a Twitter mob, Worldcon disinvited you because somehow you're responsible for all this stuff. Even though you didn't participate in it, you just provided the forum. So between you and Worldcon, was there any communication? Was there any talks about what you were doing or anything like that? Or was it just, we don't want you to be the guest anymore. Thank you, but no thanks.
Yes, they did reach out to me, and I explained to them what I was doing, exactly as I've explained to you guys what I was doing. They wanted me to have a faster solution to the problem than I was willing to provide. So
that raises a kind of a weird question. Like, what other? I mean, you took the forum down. It was gone. For lack of a better term, you fixed it. The speech wasn't there. The platform wasn't there. People could no longer post their views. I'm curious on what other moves that they wanted you to make to rectify the situation, other than taking it down and investigating. I mean, other than leading a mob of crazy people with pitchforks and torches against. Like what was the resolution that they were seeking?
As I said, they wanted me to have a final resolution. They wanted me to be able to say, all right, what exactly are you doing with the bar? What exactly have you discovered? What exactly is your determination? And that was that was what, 2 weeks ago, and I still don't have a final solution. If you will pardon the illusion there. They explained to me that they were receiving pressure from their other guests in their community, and that they were unwilling to have me be part of their community anymore. So what can you say to that?
No, you're gonna let me come.
I've been going to World Cons. My first World Con was Atlanta in 1986, and I was a volunteer, and I got to register Ian Ballantyne. I don't know if you guys know who Ian Ballantyne is, but I did.
Ballantyne Books?
As in Ballantyne Books, yes.
Yeah.
Wow. He and his wife Betty basically invented the paperback, right?
They really did, yeah.
They absolutely did, and they were major players in publishing up until they both passed away, and he was a hero of mine, and I got to register him as a volunteer at WorldCon, and that was fantastic.
That's cool.
And and that's the kind of experience that I hope the people who go to WorldCon get. If they don't want me to be part of that, that's okay. I hope that they have their WorldCon experience and they get to meet their heroes and they get to have a good time. It's obviously moved on, right? It is not the WorldCons that I've been going to for this period of time, and that's okay, right? Things change.
That is true. Life's only constant is change.
Things change, but I think it's sad that there are very few places now where you can go and just go to have the experience of that con without being assaulted by any kind of political leaning one way or another. And it's people saying, well, I don't want them to come to the con because I don't feel safe because of their views. And
yep.
I think that's insane to even think that because somebody has a different political view or a different view on anything, that would make somebody else feel unsafe. And we're, as science fiction and fantasy, we're a big community and far-ranging views on both sides. And it's disheartening to me to see that I think we're leading to a place where there's going to be conventions for certain people over here, and there's going to be conventions for certain people over here.
Yeah,
and
bubble culture.
And we're going to get to it's you see that on social media too, where you people just start blocking everybody that they don't agree with, so they only hear the side of somebody that they agree with. And I think that's sad in the genre, because we're supposed to be exploring these different topics. And I think science fiction and fantasy does that better than any other genre, really. So it's sad that we're getting to this point.
Yeah,
The,
Peter
the only,
Nealon says
the
it's
only,
just
the,
a reflection of what's going on in the wider world, and I think he's absolutely right. I mean,
yeah,
people watch the news they want to watch. People hang out with the people they want to watch. They seek out whatever's going to validate them, regardless of evidence and facts and things like that. They don't. There's no. They say the mark of an educated mind is to be able to listen to an opinion and an idea without accepting it, to give it its due consideration, and then just say, no, that's not for me. People don't do that anymore. It's just not something that's in the cultural zeitgeist. I mean, it's crazy, in my opinion, which is
well,
worthless.
the one glimmer of hope that I see in all of this is that, again, back in the day, and this is before my day, when I was growing up in New York, we had, I think, 4 different newspapers, and they were for 4 different audiences, right? The people who read the Wall Street Journal did not read the New York Post. And the people who read the Daily News didn't read the New York Times. If you wanted to be that educated person, right, you got all 4 papers, you read everything.
Exactly.
Right, you read the Post for the sports. I don't know why you'd read the Daily News, but they had actually I do. On Sunday they had good cartoons. So right. And it wasn't so much an echo chamber as each newspaper serving its audience, right? So maybe it's not a bad thing to have a community that refines its ideas, right? That the interplay of ideas is within a particular community, and if you want to see what that community is saying, you join that community and you see what they're saying and you judge for yourself. But you don't have to. You don't. The idea that you need to appeal to everyone is kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
Why should you have to appeal to everyone?
Well,
Don't
I agree.
you think that within those insular communities that you're talking about, I mean, I agree with you 100%. It's fine to have a group of like-minded people who are kind of talking out and refining their ideas, but I think these days we've reached a point where it's us or them. There's this thinking that, well, if you're not part of my community, you're part of the problem and you're not welcome and you're wrong and you're a fascist or you're a liberal snowflake or whatever the hell they're calling each other these days. That I think is where the disconnect and the problem arises with these insular communities, because they're not just insular communities, they're exclusive. They're excluding anybody that disagrees with them. They don't want to hear what somebody else coming into their bubble wants to say. And I think that's the problem. It's that they don't want to do the hard part of thinking about something that they don't agree with. They want that feeling. They want that feeling like, yes, I'm right. I'm confident. There's nothing, I'm not going to listen to anything that disagrees with what I believe and what I feel. So fuck you, go away. You're wrong. And that's the thing I think we need to overcome.
And I think that's part of the solution to the bar. Well, if I just imposed my idea of what was right and fair and good, then it would be a much quieter place, and that.
Oh.
Actually, I think you're on the right track though with the is this speech legal thing, because all this stuff about inciting to violence in a legal term. I mean, hell, we just saw this with the damn Capitol riots. In a legal aspect, you have to prove intent.
Right.
If somebody on the forum says, all right, we're going to meet at this time at this place with this many guns and we're going to go up there and we're going to kill all these dudes, that's incitement to violence.
Right.
But if you just kind of randomly say, somebody needs to do this to those guys because I don't like them, is that really intent, or is that just somebody who's had too many drinks and they're spouting off at the mouth? I think
it takes a grown up to be able to make that determination, right?
Well,
you have to actually be responsible for your own decisions.
Grown up.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean
You're
to.
fine.
Did my words hurt you? I didn't.
No, I'm sensitive. I'm so sensitive.
What I think is interesting, and what I'm curious about is that I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think had you gone to Worldcon and you were a guest of honor and you were going to give a presentation or a speech, been a part of a panel, had you planned on what you were going to say, what you were going to talk about, and um, in that material, they disinvite you because of all of this insightful thing. But I doubt your plan was to go to Worldcon and say, let's rise up against the man and do violence to other people. What did you have an idea of what you were going to talk about when you were presenting?
I did want to talk about Jim Baen and his effect on the field, and I'm interested in history. I studied history and anthropology in college, and I still follow these things, and I'm interested in the history of science fiction fandom. Always have. So it would probably have been something along those lines. I wasn't planning on something insightful. It doesn't come as a surprise to me that I was disinvited. I expected it to be my my personal advocacy of the Second Amendment, not the First Amendment, that would get me into trouble with the Worldcon.
True.
So
True.
when they invited me, I said, I am a member of the NRA. I have carried a pocket knife since I was in first grade.
Right.
So you should be aware of these things in case this is something that you don't want to be part of your community. I will take the invitation as the honor that it was intended, and we can just quietly part ways now. And they did not want to do that. So, but Lauren, would you feel uncomfortable if you knew that I had a pocket knife in my back pocket?
No, I wouldn't. No. In some circumstances, I might even feel more safe and comfortable knowing Toni was in my crew.
But I mean, this is a strange thing to me, and it is clearly strange to Josh, and it's clearly strange to Chuck too. But it doesn't seem strange to you that this was the outcome of this kerfuffle.
Yeah, and I don't know that I don't know that it's strange, but I'm not surprised.
Right.
I don't know if anger is the right word. It disappoints me more than anything, but I'm not surprised because this kind of thing has been happening for a number of years, and I'm sure that it's happened to I want to say people on the left, but anybody else. I'm sure that it's happened before to people that don't agree with me or that have other views. But I think it's interesting because now more than ever, it does seem to be a conservative voice that is typically uninvited to do presentations like this at big events.
I am not definitive, but I do know some fan history, and I cannot think of a single instance where someone who was that's not true. that is not true. In 1939, the Great Exclusion Act was when at the first Worldcon, when young communists wanted to come to the convention with the express intent of sharing their communist printed materials.
Manifesto.
I don't think it was the Communist Manifesto that they were sharing, but there was fanzines that included this, and pamphlets and so on. And the organizer, or if I'm remembering this correctly, the organizers of the convention said that you are welcome to come here, but you may not spread your political material. They came anyway. They brought their material. They were excluded. And
they broke the rules.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think if any time after 1939 that anyone from the left was excluded because of their stated political beliefs. And I cannot think of an instance. That doesn't mean there wasn't one, but I can't think of one. So, Lauren,
are you aware?
I'm really interested in Lauren's reaction to all of this.
Well, my reaction is it sounds like a preemptive strike against you. You haven't done anything wrong with your behavior. It's just your personal views that have gotten you in trouble with Worldcon. And it also seems like, we can all agree that the problem is there's divisions in our culture, but how are we supposed to get over them unless we can meet each other face to face and talk? That seems to be the starting place. So if they want to achieve their goals of making science fiction and fantasy community a better place, they'd start by bringing you there, I would think, so that the discussion can get going.
Do you think it's a generational thing? I mean,
Oh,
do you
I
think
do.
that,
Yeah.
that all of this noise, and I'm talking either side, is just the younger folks coming up and getting involved in social issues and just having, because of social media or whatever, they have a different view of it than people from, I'm assuming you're roughly the same age I am, Tony, just from our generation.
I'm probably a little bit older than you, because if you still have kids in high school, then you're probably
No,
younger.
I also have a 31-year-old and 4 grandkids. I started
So then,
young
yeah, we're
and
probably about
started
the same
old.
age. Yeah.
Yeah, I graduated high school in '86, if that tells you anything.
Oh yeah. All right, you are younger than me, but only by a couple of years. So
You see what I'm saying, though. I mean, because
yeah,
like
I do.
when we were coming up, there was no internet, there was none of that stuff. So we kind of had to talk to other people who might not agree with us. But kids today, they can kind of choose their bubble. They can choose to not speak to someone who might love guns or hate guns or whatever. And I wonder if it's just that and I'm not trying to put Lauren on the spot, but the younger folks who are making most of the racket, and then because a lot of our leaders are older and stuff, that's where a lot of this friction comes from. I mean, I don't know. I'm about as apolitical and areligious a human being as you'll ever find, and I didn't know about really any of this until Josh told me right before we went on the air.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, and that's one of my other
things. I'm kind of
things
just throwing ideas out there as they come to me.
I think that's one of the other interesting things I think about all this is I think before this article was written, 2 things. No one had any idea what Baen's Bar was.
I actually did. I was in Baen's Bar.
Well, I'm talking about in like overall. Like I don't know that the overwhelming number of people in reading or even in writing understood what Baen's Bar was, or that they knew any of this stuff was going on and that it would affect them in a certain way. I think it's unless for this guy not writing this article, none of all of this controversy would not happen. And it's I'm not saying that some of the posts that were posted were correct or whatever, but it's it could, if he was just out to present the information, like, here, this is what I found, I think it would have been more easier to just say, hey, send an email to Tony. Hey, did you know this stuff was going on in your forums? And hey, I think maybe you want to look into this, instead of just making a name for himself as this knight in shining armor that's riding in and saving people from Baen's Bar. And I think the whole thing was disingenuous from the start, because he wasn't trying to help people. He was trying to blacklist you and the forums on purpose.
I think that also speaks to a larger issue within journalism and media in general these days, because back in the day, journalism primarily was about informing people. It was about, this is what happened, this is what this person has to say about it. They gave you facts, and then they shut the hell up. These days, it's almost 100% about influencing people from whatever corporate paymaster they happen to be working for. So
I think that was always true. That has always been true in journalism, that you are attempting to influence people, but with the major caveat that that there were standards, right? Exactly. Journalistic standards, so that you would ask, if you were doing a article on someone, you would ask them for a response. That you would at least attempt to show more than one side. You would attempt, and certainly in modern American journalism, you would attempt to avoid colorful language that would indicate more obviously your point of view.
Right. I mean, back in the day, there was a stigma attached to a news organization appearing biased.
Yes.
And now it's actually a stone in their crown. I mean, it's I don't get it anymore.
Well, what do you think now that in 2021 we mentioned that a lot of cons are going to be in person this year? Richard Fox in the chat asked if you had any plans to go to 20 Books Vegas this year.
Yes, we all want to know the answer to that.
And the answer is yes, I do. I absolutely do.
Awesome.
Yes. So looking forward to actually meeting Richard in person. I got to publish, we were about to publish a collaboration of his with David Weber in one of my favorite Weber universes, the universe of Path of the Fury. This is a book that has been contracted for longer than I believe Lauren has been alive. So I'm really glad to see Richard working with David to make that happen. So I'm excited about that one. So that one should be fun. Have you guys gone to that?
I have gone every year that they've had it.
I'm the only one that hasn't, I think, in Keystroke Medium.
And if you happen to get talked into going to In and Out with Richard, you just have to do it without posting social media pictures because his wife doesn't like him going, and so he always has to sneak there.
Double style,
Gotcha.
baby.
Yeah, Richard, you might want to mute this if you're watching and your wife's around.
Totally not here with Rick Wolf. Yeah.
Eating an animal style burger.
Yeah.
No,
I confess, I have never been to In and Out, so I am going to have to go to one.
He will make it happen.
Richard will make it happen. I think
right.
that's Richard's one and only, because Scott and I had never had it either, and
Me
Richard.
too.
Richard's
that was
one.
The pitch.
Yeah, Richard's one thing was if you're here, you have to go to In and Out.
Yes, he
but
grabbed a crew. We grabbed more people when we were there. We're like,
Yeah.
join us. I see that you're from 20 Books too. You're coming with us. And
Yeah,
we had a blast.
He said too late.
Too late.
Hi, Mrs. Fox.
Oh, that's great. It's 20 Books is a really good place, and I think it's been growing every year, and I go predominantly for the people because it's the one time a year when all of my people are at the same place at the same time, and it's interesting because I've been on internet forums for years. I started chatting in MRIC back in the day, and used to hang out on forums where the cool thing was to create a really nice signature line, like you create a little art graphic for that, and so it's fun to meet people that you hang out with online and see them in person. I think that's one of the coolest things to do, in my opinion. There.
Yep.
So hey, Toni, thanks so much for coming on the show. It was great to talk with you, and I hope that people will watch this in an effort to kind of get your side of it and hear what you have to say, because instead of yelling and screaming their opinions, maybe listening to the other side and seeing that it's not as evil and malevolent as it's portrayed to be in certain situations.
Well, the idea that I agree with everything that's posted on the bar, the idea that I agree with the politics of every writer that I publish is crazy. There's a lot of stuff posted on the bar that I don't agree with at all. There's a lot of writers who I'm pretty sure vote differently than I do. And we're united in a love of science fiction and fantasy. We are united in the love of a good story, and that's what I like to concentrate on. The things that bring us together, not the things that divide us.
And what would you like to say? Is there anything you like to say to the people that say that that cheer for your disinvitation to Worldcon, or that say Baen Books needs to be boycotted or whatever? Was there any message you'd like to share with any of those people?
I wish them well. I want everybody to have the same joy in science fiction and fantasy that I got, the same joy that I get from conventions, and that's okay. Not everybody has to have fun the same way I do, and that's cool. But I would hope you would allow the people who do enjoy Baen Books to continue to enjoy them. Yeah.
Can't we all just get along?
You would think that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Well, everybody in the live chat, thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with us. We had a lot of new viewers I saw on the YouTube, so welcome. If you have not yet clicked the like button, do that. It's right below this video on YouTube. Click the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. If you're listening on the audio feed and you didn't know we had a live show, which I don't know how you do that because I say this every show, you have a live show. You can come and hang out with us on Monday mornings-ish. You can hang out with Lauren. You guys are Fridays now on the Writer's Journey, right?
Yeah, Friday in the
3 p.m.
afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah, the end of your work week. Come and chill. It's over.
And who do you guys have coming up this week?
We have Ellen Campbell. She's coming on. She's going to do some live editing, rip apart the manuscript into shreds, and then
Don't
put it back
give her
together.
one of
It'll be
mine.
beautiful.
You guys seem to have a kind of a little series going on now with trying to make books sell better. Like you had Stephen Red on last week talking about relaunching and selling books, or what is it? Why your book isn't selling? I think.
Yeah.
Was the popular.
Yeah.
That was actually a good show. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, we're learning that selling books is a whole lot more difficult than I thought it was, and I thought it was
It's
very
easier
difficult.
to write them.
Yeah. That's a whole nother beast.
Truth.
Says the publisher.
she says truth. Let's see. Next week we have Brandon Ellis coming on the show to talk about his Bali journey. He's been spending the last, I think, year and a half now writing in Bali with his family.
Wow, that sounds rough.
Yeah, exactly, right? So that'd be a good show. You want to come back for that. And everybody else, thank you for coming and hanging out with us. It's been a blast. And Toni, thanks again for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. We will see you again next Monday. I am Josh Haster with Lauren Moore and Chuck Manley. Our guest today was Toni Weisskopf. Come back next week. We're going to talk about reading, writing, and everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium.
Do свидания, comrades.
Bye.
She-
It's